Not exactly sure why I'm starting. I was just sitting here watching a reader, and all of a sudden I'm here. And I have made a couple of videos already this morning, and I'm being kind of confused by the count, the number of views and things. And so, thank you. I'm being given the understanding of not to pay attention to that anymore and just leave the YouTube studio action alone and let it go, because there's going to be fluctuations. There's going to be those people that are definitely watching. I don't know how they're watching that I can't tell what the number of views are accurately, that it showed that there were 2 or 3 people watching as it was premiering, and yet there's only 1 view. So I'm being asked to just step out of the YouTube studio monitoring and understand that there are ways of the universe that I have nothing to do with or that I know anything about, that there's just stuff happening. And even if there are 0 people watching video, whatever, doesn't matter, because this is headed where it's headed and it's going where it's going. And the people that are wishing to be there, wherever there is higher consciousness, we're all going to be standing there together. Now, who do I expect to be there? No one. I don't expect anybody to be there just cause. Who do I care to be there? Anybody that's willing to do the effing work to earn that place and not try to hold me back or keep me from going there or ask me to drag them there or insist that I ride their back there so that later when they get tired, I can carry the rest of the way. It's throat chakra. And no, and I'm not susceptible to bullshit spell work. I'm susceptible to having a human body and the human emotion that has to deal with knowing the treachery of what's already happened, the ugly of what's currently possibly going on right now, and the even uglier that's on its way, more than likely. And it does make me, I just felt a little bit of I'm out in left field now. Like, wait a minute, I knew what I was saying, and all of a sudden I don't. And do I, don't I? I do. And there's a bit of hesitation, and thank you, there it is. Everyone has free will in this. As I continue to push out my content and offer up that healing, here's the elixir of how to do it. It is not to continue doing what the fuck you're currently doing. How do I know? Because it isn't working. And I grow weary of my energy being drawn back to answer a door that stop knocking on that door. That's an old house I don't live in. Remember? Stop that. And I do have my days where I feel not very nice about that. And I feel not violent, just angry that stop. When do you learn that it's not your way any longer? At what point do you sit your orange ass down and stop your ranting, raving, and absolute ludicrous behavior and no longer look at me like I'm the one that's acting ludicrous? This is a paradigm of upside down and matrix stuff that it does drive me nuts and it makes me mad. And, you know, the idea that I'm just going to be so even keel and balanced, that's the height of healed, is to remain completely balanced. And that's some shit that, no thanks. I can be in balance, like I can be in a balanced state and be 80-20, and that's completely appropriate for that situation. If it's 20-80 and I needed 80-20, that's a problem. If I needed 50-50, that's a problem. And if I needed, to have it in any other variation and I wasn't willing to even consider it, that the only way that I can be emotionally healthy and not dysfunctional is if I'm just, I want to be fired up and full of life, vitality, and wee right off the top. I also want to be chill, relaxed, and not really exerting a whole lot of energy when that's appropriate. And I don't want to have to choose which way I'll go with that based on a dictate that's from somewhere outside of me. Allow me to scan the room and then listen, feel, and be the leader of my own discernment about how I go forward, meeting my own needs energetically to close portals and open chakras, and be very careful about how I'm doing that, and understand that that's a very real engagement. We engage energetically everywhere we go, whether we realize it or not. So we're like walking into, some sort of a dust cloud that's full of sarin gas. If you can't smell it and you don't know, it'll still kill you. It's in the ethers, it's in there, and it'll still kill you. So that insidious generational curses, just the whole dynamic of dysfunction. Dysfunction is born out of me wanting to have power over you. That's all that dysfunctional, toxic relationships are. It's just me trying to control you, and here's how I'm going to do it. And I'm going to keep stepping it out, stepping it off into any direction I need to go for as long as I'm not healed and I'm not willing to look at why am I so terrified that I have to have that ironclad fist and rule over other energy. That's a very young neophyte understanding of a magician and his or her ability to move magic. That, oh, you're not even Mickey, man. You haven't even qualified for the position. Just because you stole the robe and, look like Dumbledore or Snape, if you don't know how to really do that, it doesn't matter whether you look the part or you read the lines, verbatim for the movie. If you don't really know how to handle that magic, you can end up opening doors to monsters like Spider-Man multiverse of, no way home. Yeah, there is a way home. And it's very much the same way as that movie was, and how many people are willing to face their Willem Dafoe monsters that have just done the most horrible, look that in the face and not murder it when every opportunity is right there for me to do that, and I can compromise my values a little bit, I might be willing to definitely do that, then, but he deserved it. And choose still instead. Little reminder, the kind remind from another part of Spider-Man that, don't do that. Don't compromise what we're about, what you're about, your integrity, your dignity, your respect, your self-respect, and the code of conduct. Do not compromise that because you're mad. Be more grown up than that and bring more skill to your game. And when you don't know how to do that, we as your higher versions, higher selves, older versions of Spidey, we're going to remind you that that's not what you do. Don't do that. Not okay. You may not. And they didn't unfriend him and, hate him. They just said, no, not cool. And they were equally as grateful when he was able to help them get back home. So it didn't turn into some toxic, busted-ass relationship, 808, that, they became dependent and codependent on one another, that the Peter Parker of current learned the lesson from the other two of, oh, that's Spider-Man, I'm a younger version. These are dudes that are doing it elsewhere, and they're telling, oh, okay. And he learned. And the other Spider-Men were not so without the humility to be able to say, wow, thank you very much. That skill, that's amazing. And what a heart, thanks. Really appreciate that. And thank you. We dig you. We love you. We elbow bump, whatever it is, we think you're cool. And they did. And, there's no promise and, pinky promise and we'll see each other every Thanksgiving from now until this is the end of that particular relationship. That cycle is over, and maybe they're going to see each other again. I don't know. And if they didn't, it was a very wholesome exchange that was balanced, equal, and went on its way. And it was imbalanced by, I'm going to murder this guy. It was made right by, hey, and Peter Parker of current chose. He stopped what he was doing in mid, and decided, okay, I'm going to listen to that other version of Spider-Man, even though I don't really want to. He must have wanted to. And he must have also known very deeply inside of him to even stop to listen, that he was being told stop. And he listened enough to actually stop and then take in the advice, the expectation of, you're not some rogue element that does janky stuff like that. Don't forget who and what you are, and don't compromise that just because you're mad. Be a better soldier than that. Be a better avenger than that. Be better than the murderer who murdered your aunt. Not okay. Hard, sucks ass, and not fair. Rarely, 1010, is anything fair to our eyeballs. There's more going on than we can actually see. We have to go by how it feels, not by how it looks. And that's challenging, very challenging, especially when what I'm feeling is opposition up the wazoo sometimes of throat chakra, that whatever is in me that is allowing that to come through is either for the representation of what that shit looks like when it's coming through and for others to see, or it's whatever part of me that's still being allowed to come through to stop my honesty, my truth, and my ability, that I'm allowing whatever that floater energy is of, I'm gonna get you, and you saying that ugly vibe, it's still lighting around anywhere if I'm open and receptive to receive that. So I don't leave any antennas out to receive terrible energy from anybody. If it's not loving and supportive and kind, I neither want to give nor receive that. So I don't, 1111, I don't tune into those frequencies. And when I'm brought to them, it's either because I've left something open somewhere. Doesn't mean I closed off my heart. It means that I'm aware of my energetic border. And when somebody's bumping up against it, I don't mean physically, I mean energetically. It can get a little weird. I'm like, what is she talking about? When I feel people in my bubble, they're either there because they got into a little breach, a leak somewhere, or they were brought in by my team to evaluate that and say, how would you like to go forward with this? And shall we offer healing, or shall we offer get out? And it's up to me, based on my body and my needs, and me talking very carefully with my guides of what am I supposed to do with this? And sometimes it's observe that, see that, know that that's the read on that. That's the temperature test of eel, and move on. Not your business. And I'm very clear that when it's not my business, I know it's not my business. And when I know that it's my business, I'm clear on that. And if I don't know that it's my business, then I automatically defer to that's not mine. And if I'm brought back around to it, then that means I either was being resistant somehow or just needed to come back and revisit that. So when energy's hovering and it needs a place to land, it's got to land somewhere. And it's got to upcycle as far as I'm concerned. Alchemize. Not for the goal of I'm going to get rich when I do. I'm going to have my Mercedes when I do. My goal, anyway, not to be self-righteous, my personal goal is I do this work, healing, offering for myself and others because I'm here, I want to save the planet. I want to see Mother Earth survive our raping, pillaging, and plundering spree because there's so much beauty and there's so much here to offer us that is better and better and better. And we're smart, man. We're off the charts insane smart, except we're building, horribly toxic, more toxic 1313 and more busted relationships with one another out of the amped up fear that we're feeling. People are grappling to believe in something. Then please choose to believe in something beautiful because those monster things, even they, at the end of that Spider-Man movie, even they were, the octopus guys in tears of, oh my God, so relieved. And so I haven't seen one yet, not one monster in human body form that I would look at and tell them that, your pain is insignificant and whatever makes you that kind of monster, there's an intense amount of pain. If you're that kind of monster, there's a reason. What is it? And I don't think it came in from another multiverse necessarily. If it did, then I'm open to understanding those multiverse realities differently and 3D still the same. That nobody gets to be cast aside and murdered. They have to be neutralized and taken out of the game. You got to sit down. If you don't know how to behave in the multiverse or in this universe or in 3D, you got to sit down and wait for me to come and take you there. No, it's not codependent. You got to sit down until you figure it out. You're given the rule book when you're sat down. The universe will help you figure it out. It's a matter of listen. It's an audio book, listen. And it's also a written form and, it's all over. We just have to tune into that radio station and not that other cockydoodle. So with that, I'm going to go. And thank you very much for your time. 1444, it is divine. Get in your skin, friends, because what's within your skin is your divine. And your divine, totally fine. Get in there. Make it thine, not mine. Thank you again. Take care.